And he goes on through this foyer, and the space opens up as he walks through this room with all these different portraits. Kind of doesn't really look at any of them, just kind of focused on walking in. He walks through the foyer, walks into another room right off of that. Um, and as he walks in, you see his head turn left, and as his gaze kind of spins, um, you see pictures of, you see again another doorway directly in front of him, and then as his head turns to the left, you see a portrait, and then another portrait, and another portrait. The first portrait is a small gnomish man. Um, he has a white beard um, that kind of is well kept and kind of comes down to a pointed goatee. Um, in the hand of that gnomish man, like in that split second, you see that it's holding a purple rock or a crystal of some sort. As the gaze spins to the next portrait, like, and he's not pausing on this, his head's just turning, and you're kind of catching this. It is a human woman who is standing there, one hand on her hip, another hand outstretching a skull, kind of like almost Shakespearean. And she's looking forward, and she has bright green eyes and just this dark brown hair that's kind of tied in a ponytail that's draped over one shoulder. And she's standing there, one hand on her hip with this belt kind of hanging off of that hip. And then just kind of these like
Are
tight
there any name
pants.
plaques that I see next to Kezin's portrait?
Roll a perception check as this his vision is kind of panning to see if you catch any name placards.
5. Okay.
So no, you do see that there are like along the frame of each of these portraits, there is somewhere with the word, but you just can't get a good glimpse to like read it as he's turning his head. On the
Mm.
far wall, kind of as he finally his gaze kind of turns all the way, you do see a picture of William himself standing there, um, and he's standing there with on to his right. There's a small orc child, and he's just standing there looking deadpan into like whoever drew this, just deadpan at the artist, with one hand resting on the orcish child's shoulder, and the orcish child is looking down.
Oh
Um,
my god, they're like Pokemon trainers, except just for awful, like, scientific breakthroughs. Fucking hell. So,
So
okay, okay.
as he kind of pans and you see those three, you see that there's more portraits. Like in his peripheral vision, there are portraits on the wall behind him, and there's another portrait next to his, which
Can I,
is what was that?
I can't, I can't make out the number, or wait, I can't make out the details, but can I make out the number of portraits?
Seems to be that there's the three obviously. So there's the gnomish man, the human woman, the one of William. There's another one beside it, beside William, to again to the left of that portrait.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going like right to left, right around this
Yep.
corner. So I wish I could like draw some. I wish we had like a way that I could draw so I could show you this. But basically, doorway directly in front of you, wall on either side of the doorway. Um, yeah, Nuno, I'm recording. Um, wall on either side. Um, Gnomish man is directly to the left of the doorway. Woman is to the left of that. Then the corner happens, and then on the other wall is William, and then there's another woman who is kneeling over some kind of plant. Um, and then there is another portrait beside that, and then another corner, and it looks to be like there's three or four more portraits on the wall behind you.
Mm.
To the left, his vision never went to the right as he enters the next room, so you don't know if there's portraits on the right side of this room.
Okay, okay.
Um, as he reaches the next doorway, it's two metal doors, and he grabs the doorknobs and kind of pushes them both simultaneously forward. They're like French swinging doors almost, and he kind of walks on through. And as he walks on through, you see that the marble floor turns to a red carpet that stretches out very far. The room that he steps into is huge, and there are just rows upon rows upon rows upon rows of books on either side, and in the middle is just these rows of tables that are perpendicular to where he is standing. So just like out in front of him is a table, and then beyond that another table, and beyond that another table, and beyond that another table.
Mm.
Um, as he kind of steps into the space and then looks up, you see that on either side there are these large, they almost seem like balconies that are looking down on this central space. And then there are more rows of books on those. Um, and he kind of stops and stands there for a moment, kind of just looking to his left and then looking to his right. And as he looks to his right, there is a small, gnomish woman sitting at a table. He walks up to her very slowly, and you hear his voice again. Has anyone else entered the library today, this evening? No, just you. Just you, William. I didn't expect to see you for some time. I knew you were stationed. I heard what happened. I'm sorry. It's quite alright. I think I've learned some things, and I think I might be able to help elsewhere. I'll see. I'll be taking books out, looking into Kezin's research, the religious history of the Shalinstian Empire, and the island of Carnig in general. And she says, the island of Carnig? Well, there's not much there. But row 32-6B will be your best bet. As far as Kezin studies, you know the whole upper floor. And religious history. Hold on, let me see.
Oh, did you pause it? What did you say was the whole upper floor?
Kezin studies.
Fuck! Okay. We have to burn this second sending much earlier than I thought. Okay.
Um, and then she says, "Oh, let me see." She goes under this kind of desk table that she's sitting at, and she pulls out like a binder and puts it out onto the desk. And starts flipping through page after page, kind of lining with her finger. Um, General religious studies would be in section 491A. Let me know if I can help you any more today, William. I think that's a good start. Thanks. And he kind of starts walking down, and you see that the first, as he kind of passes the first row of books, it's labeled 1, and he just starts walking as the next row is 2. What are you doing?
So he's walking through.
Just these aisles, right? He's walking past all these aisles of books, and she said 32-6B, and she said 491A. So, on the right side, it's 1, 2, 3, and he's just walking down, down this long corridor of rows of books.
Okay. Once he gets to the sections of religious histories, is that what he's going for? Religious histories first?
He's just walking right now. Seems like he was told, again, what you heard was Kezin is the whole top floor. Religious histories are 491A, and Carnig is three, what was it, 32.6B. So he's just walking right now. You haven't directed him on what you want, where you want him to start. He's just, it seems like he's just going where he thinks is the right answer. You don't know.
Okay. Yeah, he's letting him autopilot to see which, because he's already given him instructions on procedure, just not which one in order. So
It,
he's going to wait for him to either go for religious histories or Carnegie, and if he starts going up a level, he'll be wait, let's wait a second. We'll put that one off till the end. Um, so yeah, Abot's waiting to see which one he goes for first.
okay. So as he's walking, he walks to about number 50, row 50, and then takes a right and starts walking down a corridor, like through the aisle of books, and comes out into comes down, walks all the way down the aisle, hits a wall. Um, there's a door there. He opens the door and walks through. Um, as he does that, you see that he comes into another almost identical room, and he's looking at the side of an aisle of books, and he looks up at the number, and the number is 280. He kind of looks to his right, and you see that the numbers are going up, and he looks to his left and sees that the numbers are going down. He goes to his right and continues walking. Um, After another few moments, he reaches row 326. He begins to walk down that aisle, and then he looks to the left, and he sees the letter A on the left-hand side, and he sees the letter B on the right-hand side. He walks down a little farther, and kind of stops and just looking at this giant wall of books. Um, are you looking for anything in particular as he's kind of just standing there?
Abot's immediately going to try to focus in and see if he can see any book titles. Um, and then if is he just standing there looking, or is he going to start moving closer to take a look?
He's standing there
Um,
looking, kind of his eyes are scanning the rows of books. And as his kind of eyes are moving, and you're following the gaze, obviously, um, you see the first thing that would catch your eye is um, the geography of Darlith. Um, the second book that would catch your eyes um, is the Splinter of Calrus and the Darkness Below by a name, and then like the author. Um, Hold on one second.
I only know of one other author.
Um, the author is Corral Polin.
I know him.
Um, and then another one is the History of Dwarves and the Island of Carnegie by a Martin.
Are both by this author?
No, it's one book
Okay.
by Martin Olin.
Okay.
Another book that you would see that would catch your eye is a this is a quite thick book, um, and it is How an Island of Nothing Becomes an Island Worth Fighting For.
Is there an author?
The author, all it said, it's one name. Um, and it just says Gale, Gale.
Okay.
And then the
Um,
next one that would catch your eye is Warring Winds: The Tale of Darkest.
is there anything on what would anything on uh religious goings in Carnegie or military, specifically the market? But not really military, but
Roll
market.
a perception check.
Okay.
You wrote all the titles of those books down, didn't you?
Yep. Yeah, they're all in campaign chat. I'm just splurging my notes in there
Okay.
because trust them. Yuck. It's a 4. I guess he'd just take his time then to read through as many of those book titles as he can.
So you got a 4
Mm-hmm.
for that perception check. Um, so none of the titles that you see um, point out or like point at military. Um, the only one that might be of interest as far as religious happenings in Carnegie um, was a book called "The People of a Market and the Trade of a World." The author is Haley Roberts.
Hmm. Is there any sort of sorting based off of? I guess is there any sorting aside from just
They are
alphabetical?
in alphabetical order by author.
Oh, okay. Um, after he, I guess I'll cut in, send him ascending. Uh, just only the titles. Uh, pick geography of Darlith,
Okay.
Warring Winds, the people of a market, and that's it. That's all he sends for this ending.
Okay. People of a market. Geography, Dartmouth, People of a market. What was the other one you took?
The Warring Winds.
Warring Winds. Okay. So he would reach out, grab each of those books, um, and kind of take them in his stack, and walk down the rest of the aisle, um, and then till when he reaches the end of the aisle, and then kind of look up to the left, up to the right, see that the numbers are going up to the right, and continue walking down until he hits 491, which would take him some time. What are you doing during that time?
Um, he's just
Just watching him
so
go.
yeah, just watching him go. The second he sits down and actually starts reading some of these books, he's gonna send him another sending. I need to hold on until he actually starts reading.
Okay. Give me 1 second here. Do, 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 do. What is... Okay. So some time passes. He reaches the aisle 491. Goes down the aisle. Um, and begins to kind of turn and start looking at all the books. Um, as he looks at the side of the aisle A, um, you see that there are a variety of different books. The majority of them are actually by the same author. Um, the author is. Let me check my notes real quick.
Didn't think you'd have to be retailing all the specifics.
Wait, what was that?
You didn't think you'd have to divulge so many authors' names and so
Yeah.
many book titles, did you, when you started this campaign?
No, I didn't. But I have all the shit that matters. Um, this one is fuck. Where the fuck did I put him? Oh, got him. Horace Lamont's.
Horace?
Horace Lamont's. Basically, all of the books at this in this wall are written by Horace Lamont. Um, all of the titles are very generic as you're kind of looking at this, and it's literally um, the deities of a fractured world, volumes 1 through 95.
Fuck. Uh. And there's no, like.
That all of the writings of Horace Lamont are part of this
Alright, and how
this
thick do these
encyclopedia.
tomes look?
Um,
Like, if
like
I, as someone who's organized, done literally nothing but exist and organized tomes for 95 years, could I guesstimate at, like, how thick these books are just by
you
looking at
could
the backs?
guesstimate that each one would take an average person. It would take an average person maybe 8 hours to read one. Might take you 4, maybe 3.
Man, I need all of these too. Um, and is this still within the? Is this in the religious history section now, or are
This
we?
isn't. You are in religious history.
Okay,
Before you were in
so that's what I
the
figured.
equivalent of. She told you that the section 491A is where the religious section would be. So as you're kind of looking at this wall, it's all books by this. Majority of the books are Horace Lamont's. Then there's a couple other like before and after that. There's a couple other books. There is like this whole wall is just this like essentially this potential like religious encyclopedia, and then there's some books in front of that, which is um, a balance kept, and a prey hunted. Um, on that one, there is not an author listed. There's no on all the other books. There's usually, but this one's just kind of in the front on the row at the top. Um, and then after, there's a few more. Um, the next one is a maddened leader. Um, and that is by a Paula Emmerich. And then there is um, the Defiler's Protector. by
Is this one
Yuri. That's by Yuri Newton.
that random name generator is coming in handy? Um, Abot is going to tell him with sending, uh, read what you have, look at each page 20 seconds, count under your breath. I read faster than you. And that's it. That's all he says to him.
Okay. All right. So he takes the books, walks back down the aisle, um, and makes his way to the center of the room where the tables are. He sets out the three books. Um, and he kind of sets them up. First one to the left is Geography of Darlith. In the middle is the People of a Market, and then on the right is Warring Winds. First one he reaches for is Warring Winds.
Okay.
Okay. Over the
I'll
next.
tell you which ones that Abot reads and which ones Abot scans. After if there's like a map or something, Abot's just gonna scan it instead of actually reading it.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Apologies. Yeah, continue.
So he begins kind of scrolling through. Opens the first book, The Warring Winds. And right off the bat, with the way that this is written, you can tell that this is not like a historical recounting. This is either fiction or like creative writing, or this is, but this is not like a historical book. Um,
Okay. Is it how long is it?
the book seems to be, I don't know, the thickness of like a Harry Potter book.
Okay.
Do you let
Is he
him
able to
continue?
read it? Is he able to read it under an hour?
The whole book in under an hour?
Yeah. I assume
Um,
no, right? Because
Absolutely not.
yeah, the
Words per
second an
minute.
hour
You
passes,
got a
Abot
thousand
will.
words per minute, right?
Yes.
Hold on one second. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I definitely figured not.
Yeah. So say the book has somewhere around 200,000 words.
Yeah. Well, I'm only asking because the second an hour passes and he's still reading this garbage. Abot would send him a sending. Move on to the next book. Obvious, not obvious fiction. Um.
Okay. So what you did get out of the book, out of that hour though, is this is a story about three friends um, who met as children at a dwarven summit. They're from different clans, um, and then it seems to be going in a direction after that hour. It's talking about like their friendship and how their friendship is growing. Three characters. Hold on one second. What are these characters' names? I
No,
can't.
I have the hot link to random name
I'm not
generator.
doing. I'm not using random name generator. All this stuff actually exists.
Oh, as opposed to all the other real fiction.
Where the fuck? Okay. Um, so the first of them um is named Ida Iron Fist.
Okay.
The second is Fornir Jindeep. And the last is Jella Tattered Shore. And the story talks about these three individuals.
What was the first name on the Jindeep?
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, what was the first name on the Jindeep dwarf?
Fornir.
Okay.
So it talks about these three friends who basically meet at this summit. They're all children, and as they grow up and are becoming older, um, basically their parents tell them that they're no longer allowed to see each other and they will no longer be making their trips to the summit. Um, and it seems to be going down this path of where you basically stop reading is this scene where Ida Ironfist is writing a letter to Fornir Jindeep, and her mother finds the letter and basically starts screaming at her and telling her that if any of the other Iron Fist elders found this, Ida would be hung, and that she can't be writing this, and that Dernkist is coming to an end. And that's kind of where you would
Uh,
stop reading.
what is there a date on this book's publication?
There is not.
Is there an author name?
Yeah, this is Warring Winds. Was there? Did I not give you an author name for Warring Winds?
You just said Warren wins the Tale of Dernkist.
Oh, Dernkist is written by. Hold it, please. Ramel. Ramel.
Mm. Yep.
Warren.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. What's the next book he picks up?
So the next book he picks up is the geography of Darlith. Um, and as he opens the book, hold on one second. Go, 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 go. Give me one second here. Things are falling apart.
It's all
Uh-oh.
good. Take as much time as you want.
I broke it. Hold on. Let's see here. Where'd it go? Where the fuck did it go?
Check your Gmail.
Oh, I see where it went. Okay, I got it. As you open the book, the very first thing on the inside cover is this map. Oh, it's too big.
Oh no. You want to send it to me on Gmail?
It is a 50 megabyte file.
I don't know if you can send that over Discord, but
No, I can't.
you can send it over Gmail.
Okay. Hold on one second. Let me see if there's a way to reduce its size. Properties. Ooh, it's so big. How do I reduce its size?
No clue.
Okay. Well, you're gonna get a map. Um, but it's a very big
What
map.
you could do is you look at it and then you screenshot it and then you send me the screenshot.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Brilliant. I say brilliant.
I'm a genius. Yeah, because it wants to give me the most HD version that has all the details,
Yeah.
which I want, but in the meantime, I want to see the screenshot. Until Abot learns how to actually write out maps, do you want me to keep this to myself? Just the actual map file?
It's up to you. I'll
Actually,
save it.
that'll give Sarah a motivation to teach Abot map making finally. So maybe I'll do
Okay.
that.
Um. Okay.
Or wait, it's gonna be the VOD's not just recording audio, is it? So
It
she
was
can.
only recording audio.
Oh, okay. Okay. It's about to say Sarah's just watching this, fucking laughing at me because she could see your screen. What am I kidding? Only Ray Boss watches these.
So that is the map that you see on the inside cover.
Oh, fucking hell! I love how the mountain range just goes cuts straight through the world. It's fucking awesome. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. That's really good to know.
So, do you have him continue, or do you just look at that and then move on?
Um, he uh would have him. He Abot looks at it, saves it, and then tries to get him to move on.
So you send him another
Um,
message.
yes, I send him another sending. That's it. That's enough. Be good.
You get the gist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, so then he closes that book and picks up the next one. Um, and it's the people of a market. And the book is dated. Um, Hold on 1 second, please. Mm-hmm. 2,942.
What is this number?
2,942 is there's a date it's called it just says 2,942, and then the rest of that date. Hold on 1 second.
This is in the people in the tradable world.
Yeah, the people of a market and the tradable world. 1 second. Um, 2,942. Olea 21.
2,942. Alea 21. Assume this is like a calendar system. What does it say for that date?
Published. and then the author's name directly below it. And then down the bottom of the page, um, is um, a looks like to be like the picture of a tree, like a small like drawing of a tree, and then it says
It's the publishing company.
Felis
Gotta,
Prince.
uh,
And Olaya is Olaya.
Olaya.
And it was written by Hallie Roberts, Felis Prince with the tree icon. Not published by Hallie Roberts, authored by Hallie Roberts. Haley Roberts.
Yep.
Okay. So from there, the book begins with talking about how Carnegie became a central trading hub for people between the continent of Jora, the continent, and it describes the continent in that the frozen wasteland of Pajon, Pajon, and the deserts of Osorn.
Of what?
Osorn. Osorn.
Okay.
And before the Shalinstian tariffs and hostility, the entire island of Carnegie was free for open trade, sharing of culture, between peoples of all sizes, races, and colors.
I know what we doing. Okay, that's really good.
It talks about the Shalinstian hostility and the shattering of cultures.
Is there any specific like ramping up of conflict that
It doesn't. It actually doesn't go into that.
Okay.
It just talks about. It just keeps referring to this idea of Shalinstian hostility and the shattering of cultures.
But it doesn't go into the mechanics behind
Why
those.
why there was Shalinstian hostility? No. And it goes on to talk about the um, the inevitable basically dismantling of the trade networks of Carnegie, um, and the dwindling of a great market, and the melting pot of culture. And the people that were stranded there on Carnegie basically becoming isolated from the world. It goes on to talk about how when a people um, becomes isolated, they have options to basically destroy themselves, destroy those around them, or come together. But it usually takes a voice in order for the first two to not happen. Um, and when a man from the lands of Jorah arrives, promising prosperity, wealth, and to bring things back to the way they were, people tend to listen. The man's name was Cyril, and he brought a level of wealth back to a market, and began to unite and use the market as a means to um, culminate new culture and bring dwarven culture back to the coasts of Carnig. Um, then it talks about within a few years, the first ships began arriving at the coast of Carnig, a ship by the name of the Ouroboros, followed by the Larith, the Pollock, and the Liza.
How do you spell the last one?
Liza.
Okay. Oh, okay, that's great to hear. What's the most recent events that it talks about? The furthest in the timeline?
Okay. Hold on one second. It begins to talk about in the year. It's a couple different things. It talks about that. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? 2942. It talks about the wait, hold on. The last thing it really talks about um, is that in 2850, the shattering of Dernkist, um, and the escape of the Jindeep, and the loss of the Jindeep culture from Karnak.
So wait, 2850
The shattering of Dernkist.
of Dern Kiss. And what was that? I didn't.
The forcing the Jindeeps being forced off of Karnak and the loss of their culture on Karnak.
Okay. Just as 2850 in the book was published in 2942, right?
Yep.
Okay. And that's the most recent thing that it
That's
talks
the
about.
most recent thing it really talks about, other than this person Cyril coming to power. Cyril is the most recent thing.
Okay.
But it's not like it's a it's more of a story and a telling, and it's not necessarily in chronological order. It's more of like an explanation of the climate of Carnig. not
Does it mention?
necessarily a you know, in this year this happened, this year this happened. It's more of a story.
Mm, does it mention any, not why the Shillensteins had hostility, but more the mechanics of how their hostility worked? Like, did they
It
burn
talks
down any
about
ports?
tariffs, and it talked about the blocking off of trade routes, and basically the separation of Carnegie from the rest of the world.
Does it mention anything about them going into Karnak, like setting up
It
base?
doesn't mention anything of that.
Okay, okay, good to know.
Um,
Um, there's nothing else from that book.
the only other thing is it mentioned when it says the separation of Carnegie, how it actually phrases it is the isolation of the southern seas is what it actually says.
Is there a date associated with that, or is
No,
it just
it's just kind of
okay?
a general statement. It's not even like a it's not even like it just says like the isolation of the southern seas happens here. It was more it talks about how the southern seas were isolated, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is he? How long did it take for him to read through this much of the book?
So everything I've told you is kind of like a summary of the whole book, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
whole story about this destruction of the Shillenstein hostility, the isolation of the southern seas, the loss of culture, and the building of a market, and this man that's trying to reinstate culture um, into the market. Um, and so that's kind of a summary of what the book is about. He reads the whole book. It takes about 4 hours.
Takes about 4 hours. Um. Okay, so it's been what, 5.5 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Um. All right, Abot's going to tell him to done with Carnegie, move to religious, and then he's specifically going to mention. Let me find it real quick. A balance kept and Defiler's protector,
Okay.
and he's gonna just mention those two by name to have him go pick those up.
Okay. So he leaves the books on the table. He goes and goes and grabs um, the goes to grab the next two. As he's standing up from the table, roll me a perception check, please.
Not natural 20.
Okay. As he's standing up from the table, you notice on the far side of this portion of the library, there's a man kind of leaning up against the wall in Schlinstein guard attire, just kind of looking at William from across the room.
Okay.
He doesn't seem to mind it, but it does pass the like his field of view. And then as he turns his body and walks over to the next books, um, walks back to the aisle 491A, goes and grabs the two books. And which ones were you doing again?
It was the a balance kept and prey hunted, and the Defiler's protector.
Okay. Um, so he grabs the books, walks back to the table, sets them down. Um, are you telling him which one, or is he just gonna kind of wait there for a minute, hear nothing from you, and then just start with
Yeah,
them?
I mean, I'll let him pick which one he starts reading first because
Okay.
limited words.
Mhm. Okay. Give me 1 second. Just pulling up my notes. So, the balance. So you open up the first page, and there's a drawing of like a pack of wolves and a very attractive elven woman kind of hovering like it's only the top of her, like her chest up to her head, kind of hovering above them with her arms outstretched. Is like an image. It's like the first page is kind of like a drawing of that scene. Um,
Or is this a? Can I tell the race of the woman at all, or is this a?
she has um, it's either human or elvish.
Okay.
Um,
Do they have horns? Any of the
the
wolves, or is
wolves
it
do
just a
not have
standard?
horns.
Okay. Okay.
Um, any other questions about that sketch, that drawing?
Does it have any clear like symbols that I've seen that are associated with Freya?
No,
Okay.
nope. So
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's all my questions.
okay. So the as you open the first page, the book talks about it begins talking about um the world and how everything in the world uh, is a give and a take. Um, and that if too much is taken or too much is given, the world will collapse upon itself. Um, and it goes on to talk about this balance that needs to be maintained. Um, and about 3 or 4 pages in, it introduces the idea of Freya, and that Freya is the mother of balance, and the creatures of the world are her daughters, her children, and it is their job to enact balance. Freya monitors from above, and when her daughters become unbalanced, she will make the determination of whether the world should collapse. If the balance ever comes to a point where it can't be rectified, or the imbalance ever becomes a point to where it can't be rectified, the book talks about how Freya will let the world burn.
Let it. How is it worded? Is it that she will collapse the world, or that
Let the world
the
burn is the terminology that's used. And so it then goes on to talk about how um, so all daughters and all creatures of Freya, all children of Freya, should be mindful of balance, mindful of imbalance, so that they do not lose everything that they have. And so it's more of a philosophy book, is what you're learning as you read this.
um specifically going through this and the philosophy of imbalance, does it talk about anything? Because he's going to read the whole book regardless. This is an
Mm-hmm.
important book. Is this going to be, when mentioning unbalance, does it talk about a physical manifestation of it, similar to Freya?
It doesn't talk about physical manifestation of imbalance. It just talks about the fact that again, um, Freya does not create balance. She does not. She monitors balance. She watches for balance and tries and puts things in place for there to be balance. And the things she's putting in place are what keeps on being referred to as children.
Does it talk at all about, does it mention anything like Shalin's, the philosophy and how it contrasts with other philosophies, or is it just talking
It's just
about?
talking about this philosophy. It seems to just be kind of a the way that it's worded almost feels like a self-help book.
Mm. Okay. Um.
It's almost like this is a way to better yourself by being mindful and being, um, you know, understanding this concept of balance. Um, and
How
but it's
long is the
centered
book
around
then?
God. What was that?
How long is the book then? Like how
It's not a
much?
very long book. It would
Hmm.
take you about an hour or two to read.
Okay. Second, he's done. He is going to. I mean, there's pretty much no more questions. Is there any other like grand reveal within this book, or is it pretty straightforward?
No, there's really no grand reveal at all. It's more of a philosophy of it. It's like a philosophy of keeping balance. It's like almost like the equivalent, in reality would be like um, when people write books about um, like keeping the planet um, green, for lack of a better term. It's kind of like that. It's like a help yourself, help the world type book from a philosophy standpoint.
Mm.
But the way that it discusses the concept of doing that is around a god, and then kind of getting a little bit biblically where you know, uh, if you don't do this, God will punish you type thing.
Hmm.
Whereas she'll decide whether to let the world burn or not.
But does it even mention anything about the specific antler symbolism
Nope,
or?
doesn't even
Okay.
does. There's no talk of antlers or physical manifestation. And
Okay.
again, it's like a philosophy. It's like a philosophical book.
Well, that's good to know that they don't have that much knowledge on it, because that is one of our strongest fucking tools. Um, the next book was the Protectors of Desecration, I think.
Nope.
The Defilers.
The Defiler's Protector.
Yes,
Um,
it's the next book he
so
picks
you
up.
begin reading, and the first words are the story of Helm and Malesh. The story goes on to talk about a god by the name of Helm, and a god by the name of Malesh. And it talks about um, a council of deities. It does not mention who is on this council of deities, but that Malesh was basically thrown from it. And that
Could you say that again? Council of Deities.
that
That
Malesh was
molest.
basically thrown from the council.
Does it mention any other specifics on the Council of Deities?
It
Like
does not.
number?
It just
Okay.
talks about a council of deities.
Okay.
Um, and that Malesh, being the god of undeath, um, began to try to understand why the other deities felt that he was not worthy of being treated as the rest of them. Um, and as he would approach the other deities, and this is where it, for the first time, mentions a third deity, um, the god of harvest, Luge. As he approaches Luge, to ask why are why is his charge and why are his responsibilities not viewed the same as the others, simply um, because of a bias or a view that what he brings is unnatural. Um, and Luge's response was that um, the gods are here to help the mortals, and the gods are here to lead the mortals. Um, Everything he is and everything he does, Malesh, um, undoes that. Um, and then it mentions a fourth deity, um, and that inherently Freya cannot keep balance if he undoes what is natural. And the story goes on to talk about Malesh continuously trying to be let back on to this council of deities, um, and to be able to again use his powers and be able to again influence the world and be a part of the world. Um, and time and a time and time again, he's been thrown from the council and not allowed to participate until um, another god on this council, Helm, the Protector, um, viewed as the sergeant in arms of this council and um, the gatekeeper, if you will, decides that all deities should be on the council. Anyone with the power to influence the world should be on this council. And that if Malesh wouldn't be on it, neither would he. And so Helm stepped down from the council, joining Malesh. And as this happened, the gods had a choice to make. Do they stand upon their thrones or within their council unprotected, or do they allow Malesh back in? And what they chose to do was try to destroy Helm and Malesh to recreate a god, not of undeath but of death, one that could influence and keep balance. And so that Helm would rejoin the council and continue to protect them, now that there was no Malesh to protect instead. And so that began the 7,000 year war of the gods. And it goes on to talk about this constant battle between Helm and all of the gods who could not stand up against him or to him. It goes on to talk about the creation of new gods in order to try to best Helm, the god of tyranny.
What's his name?
Hamel.
I've heard that before.
The creation of a god of smithing, Goibinu, to create weapons.
Goibin. I guess it doesn't matter.
The Goib.
I don't know how to spell that.
The Goib. And as this war began and more and more gods were created, both sides of the confrontation, as they continued to grow, grew more desperate. Resulting in Helm's creation of a god named Savras. One that knows all, one that sees all, and so that he could understand the plots and the plans of the other gods. And what Savras told Helm was that the gods and Goibinu, Freya and Goibinu, and Hamel and the others were twisting their energies together to create some form of beast to hunt Malesh. And kill him.
Whoa! Oh! Okay, that's a lot. Um.
And there's one more piece. And so
Okay.
Helm, Savras, and Malesh created this force, this power. Something to take control of the beast. And twist it to do their bidding. And as this arms race continued and continued and continued, the fragments of all of these energies began to materialize in the world. In the mortal world, rather. And Darlith was created.
Fucking hell. Wait. Is that all from the
It's pretty much
that I
the whole book. Is basically the gods are in this arms race, which resulted in the creation of the world.
so huh. That invites the question because Lush was initially said that he was undoing the gods' efforts to support the mortals. So does that imply that there were mortals before Darlith? Huh. Crystals. Okay, that's a fucking lore dump and a half. Give me a second to give me a second to get myself under control. So that so they created a beast to hunt Malesh and kill him. Is there any more details on Malesh and his fate by the end of this war?
No. It just talks about this ongoing arms race, resulting in the creation of Darlith.
I see. Does it give any more mention of the beast, like a name, or does it
Nope.
just say the
It just
beast?
says a beast.
Oh, okay. Huh. Does it yeah, how long is this book?
This would take you about take you probably another 6 hours to read.
Okay. Um it's
So
fairly long. Does it ever mention the beast multiple times? Like maybe it says
it
basically the same thing,
it
but
talks about the beast quite a bit, and it talks about Helm and Malesh, um, and their plan to basically take it over.
so every time it mentions a beast or the beast, does it ever is it always consistent by calling it a beast
Yeah,
instead
it's
of
always a
calling it
beast.
okay, okay. So that could definitely be Damien. Maybe. So okay, that's a that's a lot. Give me a second to process. So he finishes reading this. It's now been what he was previously reading for 3.5 hours, and then
So it was
read the
five
other
hours,
book
then another 6 hours.
for
So he's been there for about 11 hours.
yep. Um, he's going to send him ascending. Um, sleep here if you are allowed. I will awake you. Much is learned. That's what he sends. Oh, I won't send that in campaign.
Yeah. And so the way that the book is written, it feels like a fiction. Like it feels like a story. It's not like a like it's this in depth kind of like if you've ever read the Bible and how the
It's
Bible
like
is
a
telling a
narrative.
story. It's like a
Yeah.
narrative. Yeah.
Yeah, it's less of like this happened at this time and this
Yeah.
happened at
It's a
this time. We were
narrative.
documented. Yeah. But I mean, still, that narrative is super fucking useful, even if some of it is baloney. Um, okay. Helm is also that's funny. Helm is the paladin that Damien supports, and he's also the paladin. He's a paladin of Helm, which controls the beast, which might also be what corrupted Damien potentially. That's a theory. Okay. So does he? What does he do when I send him that sending to hey go to sleep meet
He would
them?
respond that he cannot sleep here and that he's already been here for 11 hours and he wants to go home to his wife.
Uh, Abot will send another sending. Run home then. We are on a time limit. We need each other. I will continue to look. That's what Damien says.
Okay.
Or Abot. Um,
Okay. So we're going to. So he's gonna leave the library and head home,
mhm.
and we're gonna end this pseudo session.
Okay.
Um, and so Abot will be in the other game. In the regular session, he'll be out of commission for 11 hours.
Okay. Yeah, I have no issue with that. Or
Um,
would it be?
so it'd be about. So you guys are
Well, how
basically he'll
long?
have to sit out this fight and then probably a couple hours because.
Well, not that I mean I'll still be out of commission for this fight, but when we were traveling, Abot stopped midway through travel, so I don't know how long it took for us to get to the place where we set up camp. But Abot was in the wagon while I was moving
Yeah, he was in the
before.
wagon doing this the whole time, so that was about 5 or 6 hours of travel while you're in the wagon, and then you guys got to that camp.
Mm-hmm.
Started setting up camp. They're training the kids, um, and then they're getting attacked. So he'll be still doing this.
Okay. Yep, that works for me.